Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk about the different types of broken trust and how this really applies for the fearful avoidant attachment style and what it takes to really go through proper trust reparation. So before I dive into this, there's going to be a few key components I want you to take out of this, okay? We know, and if you've been here on this channel for some time or watching some previous videos, we know that fearful avoidants more than anybody have the most fragmented trust. And I really believe that trust is supposed to be earned over time. But that's not mutually exclusive to the fact that we all come in to our relationships and interactions with a personal trust baseline. That baseline is not based on like something you woke up and decided to feel, nor is it based on other people's actions and behaviors. Yes, to a certain degree, but secondarily. Your trust baseline is based on your internal, subconsciously programmed associations to what it means to trust, to what it means to be vulnerable, to be able to rely on other people, to depend on them to a certain degree, based on your previously stored experiences. And fearful avoidance more than anybody, because of often, the caregiver relationships they had, or because of, maybe volatile romantic relationships they had earlier in life, usually have a deeply fragmented sense of their trust baseline. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do about this. We have an entire course on this for the month of August, along with our Strengthening Self-Identity course coming out. And really what this goes into is how to reprogram your expectations you have, the different types of trust, symptoms of distrust, how to actually reprogram your trust baseline when there's big challenges here, and then how to deal with somebody making minor trust violations or major trust violations, and learning to reconstruct your boundaries around those situations and communicate effectively so that you can look out for yourself. And then we also talk a little bit about your shadow and how often when we don't trust others, it can be a reflection of lack of self-trust within us in sometimes these hidden forms. So for example, I might not trust others, or Bob might not trust others if he finds that he has really poor boundaries and he feels taken advantage of, because often he's taking advantage of himself to please others. And so that lack of boundary there, it can be something that's actually a root cause within relationship to ourselves, and even a form of re-traumatization to a certain degree, because we're keeping that wound alive from the place that it was originally broken. And we only keep that wound alive by firing and wiring those same neural pathways. So we talk a ton about this in the course. It's very, very in depth. I'm actually very excited about it. But in this video, I'm just going to do like a high level touching on some of this. And if you have a pen and paper, this might be a good time to sit down and sort of dive into this. Also, the coupon code, if you want to join the school, join our community, we have amazing individuals in there, an extremely, extremely high amount of positive feedback in terms of like the school being life-changing for people and being really transformational, a tremendous amount of success stories of people reprogramming and becoming secure, their relationships thriving, like so many wonderful things. And we might share some of these on the channel as well in the future if you guys are interested. But in this video specifically, so the coupon code is with you. It's all one word. It's 25% off membership bundles, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And I'll put a link in the video and in the description box below. But okay, so let's talk about this. Maybe grab a pen and paper. And this will be like the intro to sort of get the ball rolling here, to see the different types of trust reparations that you as an individual have to work through if you're fearful avoidant. Dismissive avoidants have their own versions. Anxious preoccupied individuals have their own versions as well. But fearful avoidants tend to sort of have the all-encompassing of both. So I'm going to put the video in this context. And if you're a different insecure attachment style, then you can take which one from the anxious side or avoidant side, or just the FA specific individual core wounds really seem to resonate with you. So number one, the different types of trust reparations to work through, and I sort of mentioned these at a high level. Number one are actually our programmed expectations. Now, these are the really easy ones to work through. These are things like these ideas that we carry in our minds, literally because of programs we've received, maybe from watching too many romantic comedies or Disney movies or whatever it is. And these are these expectations we have that are actually acting as barriers to trust. They're our internal systems, and these can be expectations. I've seen many of them over the years. Things like, My partner should never ever find another person attractive. Things like my partner shouldn't have any friends of the opposite sex or have any even like camaraderie type relationships in the workplace. Things that are basically rooted in fear and expectation that doesn't necessarily line up with something that's going to create a healthy relationship dynamic in adult life. And I know if people are going through that, it's because they're struggling with some kind of previous wound. And so they sort of fear. But, anytime we put somebody in a box and we say, you belong in this box over here and you should never look at another person and you should never ever tell a lie at any point, no matter if it's a white lie or not. A lot of parents, for example, carry these expectations that are like, my child should never lie to me. And if that happens, it just feels like the entire relationship breaks down and there can be so much pain. So we have to really, if we're looking at that, look for what expectations, and you can start by doing this like in terms of isolating which relationships this shows up for you in. So for example, where do I have broken trust that I want to fix right now? Oh, with my child. Oh, with my partner. Oh, with my parent. Oh, with my sibling or my friend. And you can start by asking yourself, just to clear this one out of the way, do I have expectations that are interfering with effective trust in this relationship? And if I do, how can I instead express a need instead of just project an expectation? So for example, let's say Bob and Jane are out to dinner, and let's say Jane looks at the waiter, and let's say the waiter is an attractive looking man. And she looks at the waiter, and then Bob gets so frustrated and so angry. Trust is so broken and shattered. And he's like, oh my gosh, I can, And a fearful avoidant Bob might really, really take that to heart, especially if he already has a fragmented trust baseline that he brings into the relationship dynamic. And so he might look at the situation, they might interact here. And what might be important to do is, number one, notice the expectation he's carrying. And number two, instead of getting angry or hurt, this is a really valuable time to express a need. An expectation, once expressed and communicated clearly, just becomes a need that we have. And so he might say instead, hey, I noticed that you checked out that waiter and it made me feel really insecure. And I just need some validation. And I also need you to hold a space for me while we're here this evening at dinner. Where you're not looking at him too much, because I feel like it takes away from like our romantic one-on-one time, and it's a little bit hurtful. Can you see how I would feel that way? Would you feel that way as well if that was going on from your perspective? So by opening up instead of closing down and blocking off, he actually translates that expectation into a need, and then it becomes something that he's able to work with. And if somebody's a respectful partner in a relationship, they're going to be mindful of that. And that's very different than saying you should never look at another person, right? Because that's just not the reality of, especially if people are married for 60 years or 40 years. So what we have to be able to do is make space for our insecurities, our fears, communicate our expectations into needs, but also evaluate if these expectations are healthy for us to have. Okay, so that's one. Another big one, or another small one, is single minor trust violations. So let's say, for example, you're at dinner and somebody says something rude. Let's say your partner or your child says something rude to you in front of the table. And maybe they don't mean anything by it. Maybe it's like an off-the-cuff comment. Maybe they even say something that's not even rude, but it hits a pain point for you they didn't realize you had. And we can feel like broken, trust really breaks down because of that situation as well. And this is really like a singular experience, okay? It's the comment itself. It's not ongoing comments, though those can also be addressed, obviously. But this is just a very specific experience. So in single minor trust violations, it's very important for a person to go forward and communicate a need and state a boundary, okay? And I'm not going to go into all the tools for exactly how to do that right now. The course goes into that in a tremendous amount of detail, but I don't want to make this video too long. I'm realizing already I'm like not even halfway through. So that's number two. And we want to isolate those experiences. One thing that a lot of people do is, there's a single trust violation, and often fearful avoidance when this takes place, because they come in again with a little bit of that fragmented trust baseline, they go, oh my God, I can't trust this person at all with anything ever again. Like if they're going to make a comment like that, they're probably going to abandon me. They're probably going to steal from me or cheat or lie all the time. And it's really easy to make meaning really big out of something that could otherwise be small. And that's not, that's not like something that you should be ashamed of or upset about. That should be something that you recognize is probably natural if you have a fearful avoidant attachment style. It's not a reflection of you or your character. It's a reflection of your past experiences and the imprints they've left on your mind, which are totally reprogrammable. So it's not like you're in this, dark hole forever, anything like that. It's just this first point of awareness to recognizing, okay, cool, let me work on repairing this inner trust baseline. And let me also work at carving out my boundaries and expressing needs and getting really clear. And if something affects me, part of building trust and getting somebody to earn your trust is also communicating consistently about what your boundaries are. Because if somebody doesn't know, you can bet that they're going to violate them all the time without even meaning to or recognizing. So it's a really important part of number 2 here. Now, number 3, our fragmented trust baseline itself. Now, there's so much to say about this, okay? But what we really want to do when we carry like a lot of trust wounds into a relationship is we want to do deep integration work. So we want to get clear about what our trust was broken around. What were those specific things that broke our trust? Was it something a parent did? Was it something an early relationship did? Were there many things throughout life? And we want to get really clear about the meaning we gave to those experiences and what we made it mean about other people and about us and about relationships in general. And we want to dump all of those things onto paper. And then we want to slowly work to reprogram these patterns in 2 ways. Through our belief and thought reprogramming, which we've got a ton of really in-depth information in the school for how to like fast track that and save yourself so much time and really get to the bottom of that. But then also action and behavior reprogramming. So actually showing up and practicing being more vulnerable, speaking up, setting a boundary, and watching the dynamic improve around us or shift around us. And then if somebody is not willing to adapt with us and grow with us, as we work to improve our trust baseline and we work to set boundaries and communicate our needs and share expectations and be more vulnerable and show up differently, if somebody's not willing to participate with you in that, then for you to keep your own self-trust, it's important for you to set more absolute boundaries and to share with people, hey, I'm working on my boundaries. This is going to be something really important to me. If you're not okay with that, then maybe we're not in the best relationship. Maybe we should just take a step back right now, because you deserve and you ultimately only want to surround yourself with people who are going to appreciate you with your boundaries and with your needs. It doesn't mean somebody has to meet your needs 100% of the time or like be perfect at, knowing your needs. It just means that they have to have some respect and make some space for them. Okay. And nobody should be in a relationship that does otherwise, irrespective of that type of relationship. And again, it's not that somebody should be perfect, that somebody, it's up to you as an individual to express your needs consistently and see your needs through and share and set those boundaries. And again, be really consistent about reminding people if they forget, things like that. But there's a difference between somebody forgetting every so often and at least trying versus somebody not making any space. And if they're not making any space for your needs and your boundaries, they're not making any space for you as an individual, and it's a dysfunctional relationship. So that's really important. And then the baseline, a lot of fearful avoidance we carry, right? And I've been fearful avoidance, so I understand, we carry these wounds about, everybody will lie, or you can trust nobody, or, everybody will X, Y, and Z. Everybody will cheat in relationships. Everybody will betray you eventually. People will get bored and leave. People will abandon you if you're a burden, or if life is too hard, if you need anything. All of these things that you're carrying in the subconscious mind are not a reflection of adult relationships. They're a reflection of a very, very small percentage and piece of adult relationships that have had their own traumas and are rooted in dysfunctionality because of not having proper tools and because of going through a lot of trauma. So yes, there are imperfections in all relationships. Yes, every relationships have their seasons of hardship. But when it comes to like fragmented trust and broken down beliefs about what it means to trust and what it means to be vulnerable and what it means to rely on people and receive love, receive compliments, receive support, if those things feel broken, then you want to work to reprogram those stories and recognize, yes, that can exist, but that's not necessarily what all relationships are made up of and what they're all going to be like. So it's very important to work on reprogramming those stories through telling a new story repetitively, looking for pieces of evidence in your external life, and then showing up behaviorally in different ways to get new responses and then to recognize that new relationships can exist. And then there's another big piece, and I'm not going to go into it too much. I just feel like I have so much to say about this, and I'm just very passionate as well about the importance of repairing trust. Research showed that having trust in a marriage, not in a relationship, but in a marriage, which obviously is a form of relationship, is the single greatest determining factor of a marriage's success. Relationships, it's actually based on like bids. Like if somebody's turning towards you and you're making bids, there's a different stat. But marriages literally need to have that foundation and framework of trust. So the last thing I'll say is, well, there's two sort of pieces. We can also have major trust violations that take place. So somebody actually doing something really not okay in a relationship, especially when there's been an agreed upon boundary. So somebody lying about something really big, somebody having an affair or cheating, these things. And there's certain steps that are necessary in order to resolve those experiences. They are very in-depth. I've done these exact steps on with a tremendous amount of clients. They're extremely successful. They're also very hard. They are in-depth, going into the root causes of all problems, what it takes to reprogram those problems, what it takes to shift those dynamics between two couples, both parties validating each other's feelings, which can be very challenging if you had the trust broken. But, you know, both people identifying the root causes and being able to share vulnerability. There's a whole bunch in there, really. I'm just like touching the like top 0.05% of the iceberg. But that's in the course as well, if that's something that you're looking to go through and have a perspective on. And then lastly, it's so important to make sure that we are repairing trust within relationship to self. Where do we violate our own trust? Where do we violate our own boundaries? Where do we repress our needs and not speak up even though we know we want to and desire to? Where do we not show up to take ourselves into consideration when making decisions or agreeing to do things and then later feel frustrated and resentful and hurt? Where do we deny our needs? Where do we repress our dreams? Where do we, put ourselves, second to others, but in a sacrificial way, not in like a selfless moment or a kind way, and in a way that doesn't consider ourselves at all. So you're looking for like where your shadow is. Where are these pieces where you're so frustrated with others because there's a lack of trust in relationship to self? And obviously that is beautiful to do shadow work on, which we have a wonderful in-depth course in the school as well. We had a student say the other day that after searching for 20 years of shadow work, it was the best course they found. So really appreciate that comment. But yeah, lots of in-depth material around there. So that is it for now. I hope this is helpful. This is such an important topic. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.